Welcome into another brand new Meltdown movie review. The entire crew, I don't know why this is so rhymey off the top, got a chance to see the latest A24 film, Civil War, on the Thursday night preview slot as it approaches what could be a historic weekend for A24. This movie, directed by Alex Garland, who was behind Ex Machina, which is, I think, universally sort of our favorite Alex Garland project, and it was one that was a sci-fi movie that really raised a lot of questions. The film stars Kirsten Dunst, Wagner Moura, Kaylee Spaney, and Stephen McKinley Henderson as wartime journalists who traveled to Washington, D.C. in the midst of a deadly civil war. California and Texas have joined together as Western forces, while other loyalist states cling together and defend from their attacks. The cast also includes Nick Offerman as the U.S. president and Jesse Plemons as a gun-toting, pink glasses-wearing scene stealer. I guess you could argue those glasses are a shade of red. I don't know. That's something that will probably not be debated in this review, but this is a film leading up to its release that everyone expected to be one that was controversial because we are in an election year. This is a movie called Civil War about sides that can't agree on anything, resorting to violence to solve their problems. John, you are a giant fan of not only Alex Garland and his previous works, but also A24. You had quite a rooting interest going into this one. Did the movie deliver for you?
For me, yes, the movie delivered. I am a fan of all of those things. The only thing that really turned me off about Alex Garland was men. Outside of that, big fan of Ex Machina, big fan of Annihilation as well. I thought it delivered to me because the premise going in was very up in the air, that we all very much were like, I wonder how they're going to pull this off. And by not pulling it off, they pulled it off for me. And that doesn't make a lot of sense. I know just on the surface. It does not. On the surface, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But the whole, I wonder how they're going to pull this off isn't, I wonder how they're going to pull off action sequences. I wonder how they're going to pull off, just the story that they're telling. It's, I wonder how they're going to pull off the world that these people currently live in. And that was not explained at all. And I can get why that would turn some people off. But it seems like going in, the fight was, they're going to make me mad, aren't they? And by not making anybody mad, they made me happy.
You saw this in a premium format, Rockstar. What did you think of the overall experience, seeing it on the big screen in the best format that you could going into this weekend within our viewing area?
It has been a long time since I've been in a theater, living not even a quarter mile from this theater, being on a date with Tyler, sitting there, and just the world of I have not experienced sitting in a recliner, and then some lady comes up to Tyler and goes, "Do you have pretzel bites?" and giving him pretzel bites. And just like, this is a different world. Like, this is not what I'm used to, working in a theater that was not stadium seating or anything, but it was the sound. I was telling Lunsford and Tyler earlier, the sound and the visual was fantastic, but not a big, the seats could improve a little bit, but you were right. I mean, you built it up so much, like this is going to change your life, but it was a good movie to see in a theater with the gunshots and all the explosions and stuff like that. But it was really, visually, it was really good.
Tyler, you've seen a lot of movies this year, especially in this format. So this wasn't sort of a reawakening for you going back to the theaters. Did you walk out as happy as you thought you would after seeing Civil War from A24?
No. So the reason I didn't like it is the reason John likes it. I really wanted to have some sort of moral conflict or idea to chew on my drive home, and I didn't really get that with this movie. It just drops you in where sides have already been drawn and everybody's already built up an army for their faction.
I want to also bring to the table here on our panel one of our favorite contributors. That is Laurel Lunsford, who joins us to talk about all the latest in movies, keeping up with it. And Laurel, you're also a massive A24 fan.
Am.
This is a movie that you are rooting for to be successful because
Definitely.
you love this studio. Did you walk out as a satisfied customer after having seen it during its opening night?
I did. I think I'm probably maybe the only one that's on John's side. I really enjoyed it. I thought the cast was incredible. I love the two girls. When John, right before it started, he was like, "Are you excited?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's got my two girls in it." Like, I love Kirsten Dunst. Of course, I've grown up with her with Spider-Man, but of course, I'm a millennial woman, so Sofia Coppola. Like, we grew up watching all those films, and then Kaylee Spaney. We recently saw her in Priscilla, which is also a Sofia Coppola movie. I think she actually got that movie because of this film, because Kirsten Dunst told her about it, and I enjoyed it. I really, really liked the movie.
Well, you smiled more in that review than Kirsten Dunst did in the entire film.
She's
So
an actress.
congratulations on that.
That's one of my things. I think she played miserable very well.
Yeah, no, that's
she
fair.
played conflicted and just numb very well.
And I'm going to do some monologuing here, but I want to be interrupted when you feel passionately about what I'm about to say.
Oh, I will. I'm sure.
Because I have some things to say about this film. Okay. The technical aspects of this film mostly all work for me. The sound design, which Rockstar brought up, incredible. It may be the best sound design I've ever witnessed on a first watch in a theater. Some of the shots, deeply haunting. Certain set pieces feel completely authentic. The interior close quarters shootouts are tense. They're riveting. You feel like you're right there in the middle of it all as you have bullets whizzing by your head. That's the feeling I had. I assume you guys had that same sort of feeling about capturing the actual action of the film.
Well, I know when you asked my opinion, I went straight into the political side of things because that's what people are going in with the mindset of. But good cinematography for me will give a movie 4 out of the 5 stars, and then you got to fill in the rest pretty much. So this definitely had that. The scene in the forest after they had left Jesse Plemons' camp was, incredible looking. The way that Jesse Plemons' little bit of the story shot was really good. The sound you texted me, the only thing you would tell me before the movie, because you saw it earlier, was like, get ready for your ears to be blown out. In Prime, knowing what the sound is like there, and it started off very quiet. And I'm like thinking, okay, at some point there's going to be that jump scare of an explosion. And sure enough, right off the bat, an explosion. And then there's going to be a jump scare of a gun being fired. But because of that, for somebody who doesn't like horror movies, that aspect of like a jump scare almost, because there's a lot of times you kind of go, you kind of jerk when you're in the theater. All of that worked absolutely for me.
If you're ever just walking around and you hear a gun go off and you're not expecting a gun to go off, it can be extremely jarring no matter how far away it is.
Yes.
I had that feeling multiple times watching this movie, knowing I was going into a movie that was going to have guns going off the entire time.
So you couldn't sleep in a sport utility vehicle when there's gunfire all night a mile away?
It would probably be pretty tough.
I'd say that's where we're going tomorrow morning.
The violence is meant to feel jarring in this movie, with a serious overall tone doubling down on the fact that anyone could perish at any point. The physicality of this film radiates off the screen. All of that is a positive for me. Big positives that I just mentioned.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
But all of that led to it being quite a frustrating watch. And I guess I'm more on the side of Tyler. The craftsmanship of this movie is here, but the courage to say something meaningful is completely missing. And I understand fully that that is done on purpose. I get it. I don't need to be explained that that is the way you get people to maybe even sample the film. I totally understand that that was a purposeful narrative choice.
And Tim, can I say something really quick?
Yes.
And this might go with what you're saying. I think the point for me maybe is I had a very similar feeling with a movie I didn't really like quite as much, but it won a ton of Oscars this year, was The Zone of Interest. That movie physically made me sick. And there are some scenes in that I will tell John all the time. It kind of ruined the actress for me, who gave a really good portrayal in another movie. But there's some scenes in it that it just makes me feel sick. Like while she's worried about her garden, there's like these people that are over in one of the main Holocaust areas that are screaming for their life. I feel like in this movie, it's like they're so focused on getting a photo. They're so focused on all of this that you just see so many people dying. And it's just like a way of life now. Like, it's just like, it's very just normal. Like, oh, okay, like this person is now dead. We have to move on to the next thing. And it just kind of gave me that same ill feeling that I could kind of see how that could be a point in of itself, that it becomes so normal that they're used to it. That's how I felt in Zone of Interest, and that's how I felt with this.
And I think in a movie like The Zone of Interest, where obviously that's the Holocaust in World War II, that we know every aspect of that story. We don't need to be, you don't have to explain the Zone of Interest to know what it is going in. But the open-endedness of, we have no idea why this is actually happening, I kind of felt myself being like, I'm kind of putting my own story on what is a fairly blank canvas of, okay, Texas and California are aligned. How did that happen? That's the question people are still asking now to us that saw the movie, and we're still like, they don't really explain how Texas and California got aligned. How would I envision Texas and California being aligned? I kind of started doing that myself of like, okay, how did we get to this point? I'm going to kind of fill in the blanks while there's a cool story playing out in front of me.
The film is currently being looked at as one of two things, in my opinion. Brilliant in its strategy of intentional vagueness, or an incomplete narrative experience that refuses to really say anything of substance. And it feels like people are falling into one of two categories with this. And I see arguments in both. I do. And I think we're all tired of constant political arguments in our lives and radiating through our media. I think we're tired of that. This film refuses to have any political arguments because I think they understand we're all burnt out on it. I do. I'm fine with that. I do not need politics injected into the film for it to resonate. But there's a difference between politics and storytelling. And this is the first war movie that I have ever seen that doesn't even allude as to why the war is happening. And for me, Tyler, that's unforgivable from a storytelling device.
I completely agree with you, Tim. This felt incomplete to me. I fall in that camp. And going back to what John said earlier about the cinematography and how that can elevate it to a 4 out of 5, I thought the imagery was stunning. But when I was studying film at Auburn, the one thing my professors would always beat in my head is there's nothing more frustrating than a clear image of a fuzzy concept. And that's what I felt like we got last night.
And John, I understand, once again, going back to it, it's intentionally fuzzy. So that way it doesn't make everybody angry. But if you're going in not to be made angry and you're going in to watch it as not just a film, but as a movie, it delivers on the film. It doesn't deliver on the movie.
Now, I will say a clear subject, a clear image of a purposefully fuzzy subject is perfectly fine to me. If it's I didn't mean to make it fuzzy, I screwed up, that's a different story. And that was not done in this. This was purposefully done the exact way it was done for a reason. Also, I think that if you get any more deep into the reason this movie was already polarizing before it came out, because it's like, okay, how is the Civil War going to happen and how is it going to piss me off politically? That's what a lot of people were thinking going into it. I feel like if any Civil War like this were to actually happen, it would be 1,000% because of politics. So to actually explain any of it, you would get into politics. So
okay.
That's what I kind of think too, and I don't know if anyone else agrees with this. I kind of feel like the movie was more about the characters, especially between the two females, where you see the younger girl who's like so afraid of everything, so hesitant about everything, and then as the film progresses, you almost see them starting to switch like the roles throughout it, especially as she becomes more seasoned, and then you see Kirsten, I think her character's name is Lee, kind of start freaking out there at that final thing when they're about to go to the president, which I think is parallel to what the young girl was going through, you know, when she first found. And I thought that was interesting because you would think for her to be this war photographer, she would be used to this, but she is having a full-on panic attack.
Can I talk on this subject really quickly? Okay. Because this was an issue. Kaylee Spaney, her character survives a brutal bombing to start off this movie. And she's almost completely unfazed by it. She's on this high of meeting Kirsten Dunst. She's on this high of, I want to be like you. You're my hero. And then a few moments later, she's at a car wash and she's just completely in shell shock the entire rest of the movie over different experiences. Why did the bombing not resonate with her at all? Made no sense to me of why she then proceeds to freak out with more minor things when she's got dismembered bodies all around her for the first frame of this movie.
But I think part of it, number one, she was pulled by Kirsten Dunst to hide behind the car, so she didn't sit there and watch a body explode in front of her necessarily. Then she goes and sees literal torture or people bleeding out of the mouth and all of that kind of stuff. That might be a little more traumatic. Plus, people have different triggers. I don't know. Let me say this before we move on to whatever subject is next. To go kind of off what everybody's saying, I don't mind people that don't like this because it doesn't explain the politics. So I'm not going to come at it like you're supposed to not see any politics in it. I'm not going to like fight that. I totally understand that aspect of it. But my argument with it and where I come at liking it, and this is just how I see it, and I understand people see it differently, including all 5 people in this room. But I viewed it as those characters were the journalists simply telling the story of what's going on, and that what journalism should be is simply telling the story of what's going on, not tell you what's going on is either right or wrong.
But hold on, John. You're missing a giant point here, and this may create...
I have one when you're in.
Please, feel free. I said feel free to interrupt me.
My character development thing, with the Lee and Jesse, was Lee is numb, Kirsten Dunst is known for what she's been doing for years. She's seen it all, and she knows when to take a shot. Like death doesn't bother her anymore. She's just numb to it. Then she sees a young, hungry girl that's freaked out. That reminds her of herself when she was that age. And I think when they're storming the White House and everything, she sees how into it Jesse is. That she's all in now, and she sees herself going, "I did the same thing," and history is only repeating itself. That here we are, and this girl is just hungry for. There's death all around her, and she's like, she sees her like this is. That's when I think she starts breaking down. Like this is just going to keep repeating itself.
Well, she
like,
says on the boat before that when they're at the Western Forces thing of, I'm so disgusted by it, but I've also never felt more alive. At the same point, you can see, that's how I felt too when I was a kid.
I think this film acts like it does a lot to promote journalism and explain the mission of journalism. Hold on one second. These adrenaline junkie photogs that are following all of the action tell us they don't take sides. They're very adamant about that. They don't question anything any longer. They just capture the moments and feed it back to the public. They are numb to the details. The argument that is made here is that no side should be presented, and the public should just see the results of the carnage, when in actuality, I feel pretty adamant that the role of journalism should be to present all sides and viewpoints of a story, and then let the public determine whether or not the physical action that's taking place is justifiable with those sides. Not telling them how to feel or think, but giving them the factual information that provides actual perspective. We get none of that in the film. We get none of that from these characters that are pretending to be journalists. Otherwise, it's just about trying, like Laurel said, to take pictures of the most amount of deaths that you can, and none of that would resonate with anybody in a real-world setting. Who are they acting on behalf of as their viewers, as their readers, as the people that they are providing this content to? That is maybe the most unforgivable sin of the entire film.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. The thing is, they don't take a side in this. They're going with the people who will let them take pictures. Because
who are those people, by the way?
It doesn't matter. I don't think it doesn't matter who it is. When they see all the gunfire in the distance and they're like, we're going to go into that war zone tomorrow and take pictures, who they're fighting with at that point, they don't explain. But it doesn't matter that, only the Western forces are letting us take pictures. Because if the president had let him in and said, yes, come take pictures of our side of it, then they could have done that too. They're going with people that are letting them take pictures.
The only people I felt emotional that were being killed in this movie were the main journalists that we were following, the main characters that we were following. Everything else just felt like...
But that's the story, is the journalist, not the war.
The journalists are making it their mission to tell the stories of the people that are being killed. And we get none of that in the film.
Well, no, but
they're
following
trying
the
to
journalist.
get to D.C. to get to the president, and then this is all happening on the way.
You don't get the story because they haven't finished their story yet. Not to make a WrestleMania pun, but they're not. The thing is, the story's done once they get to D.C. Now, Wagner Moore's character 100% turns on, hey, I just sat there and watched Lee die. I've seen all this play out. I hate the president, and I thought that the final scene was great.
Yeah,
but. So he has a very biased view by the time they make it to the president. He kind of does the whole time. But just Kirsten Dunst and Kaylee Spaney, kind of looking at them as the two main characters, they're strictly photographing what they see, period. Because that's what it should be. It's not, well, I like this side, so I'm only photographing this side. Now, they don't get to follow every aspect of this. Also, there's 4 factions in this. So we don't see the Florida Alliance necessarily in this because we're in New York to, Charlottesville to D.C. But bottom line, they're taking pictures of what is happening. Period. Those pictures should then be presented with a reporter helping, and that's supposed to be Wagner Moore's job.
He does an awful job at it.
We don't see what the end result of it is. We're seeing the journey they're going on, taking the pictures.
We see the fact-gathering process here. Who is he interviewing?
That is it.
Who's he interviewing?
He was going to interview the president.
He was going to interview the president.
It wasn't much of an interview.
But guess what? Because Western forces went in and killed him. He didn't have a chance.
He did have a chance.
He got one question.
He said, that's enough. I'm done. Interview done. Go ahead and kill him.
Which he had to hold them all from firing just to ask that one question.
It's like the director had guys, we got 10 seconds. We got to wrap this film up now.
If they really wanted to dive into it, it would have been a 10-hour, miniseries.
You know what would have been great? You know what would have fixed a lot of problems I have with this film? Make that interview with Offerman a little bit longer at the end and let him do a back and forth talking about how we got to this point. That could have solved a whole lot of issues.
I think that would have been a political standpoint then.
It would have been a political standpoint, and B, it would have completely defeated what the Western forces were trying to do,
How
which is
can
get
you
in
make
there,
a
shoot
Civil
him.
War movie if you're not going to get into politics at all, though?
If you're
It
not going
feels
to get
like
into vantage points, viewpoints, perspective. The Purge movies, love them, hate them, whatever. Did they piss off Republicans? Did they piss off Democrats? No, they just told a fictional story about people that were being divided.
They 100% pissed off Republicans.
They pissed off.
Yeah, they literally put a red hat
The first
on one of the
Purge?
posters.
No, not the first Purge.
Yeah, the first
That
Purge.
was it?
Yeah.
Purgatory.
Okay.
I can watch that.
But also they
it
do
probably made more money than all the rest of
they
them.
do set a thing where they say in these little radio broadcasts that's to the president. They do say that he's had a third term. They say that he has disbanded the FBI. They said that he's been bombing U.S. citizens. So they're trying to set him up, I'm guessing, as the bad guy. His faction is the bad guy. Whoever the president is, Democrat, Republican.
See,
or
my
whatever.
complaint is everybody today, we're doing the next round. We brought it up and started talking about it. Everybody in the chat said, well, because they did that, they're clearly portraying X. And I'm like, if you think they're clearly portraying X, that either A says something about X or B says something about you. Nothing was said in this to point one way or the other, which is what I liked about it. And I understand how that doesn't add context to the war overall. So like I said, I'm not going to debate that. I understand how you could potentially want more from this. I told Tyler earlier today, I would love to read a full, really good in-depth Wikipedia page on what exactly caused this war. Maybe that's something when the DVD comes out, they'll have on it.
Doubt it.
And I understand how that hurts the movie right now, but that is what I loved about it. But if you're trying to inject politics into that, if you're trying to inject politics into a movie that doesn't explain anything, it tells me a lot more about you than it does the movie.
And can I make a point? One thing I really loved about this film, since you loved it so much too, Tim. I said it in the review, the lack of music, the most poignant scenes don't have a score behind them. The Jesse Plemons scene in the pit, when she falls into the pit and she's getting out, there's no music, there's no score. Then the bombing of the car when she falls, when she's reacting, there's no score, there's no tense like piano behind it or some girl singing Black Hole Sun, won't you? I like that where they're just like let it naturally happen. And I think that was part of that. And Jesse Plemons, the choice of some small detail of him wearing pink sunglasses made his character. I don't know why.
By the way, I do think they were a little more red than pink. If
Yeah, but
it's
it's something like he was at a gas station, like, hey, my character should wear this. Like, there's nobody costume design that's going to like, you're going to have pink, red glasses.
Oh, the sniper having like painted fingernails and stuff.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like random stuff, yeah.
They both had dyed hair too.
Yeah.
Spotter.
I think that what we saw was the film being stolen yet again, which is what we saw in Killers of the Flower Moon as well. You put this guy in anything, game night, he steals the movie. And that was the single best scene of the movie. I think we can all agree.
It was.
Whether we like the movie or not, it was the single best scene. Because it had the most meat of let's have a discussion about somehow how we got here. That was it. And it was still vague.
But I loved that
hold
it was
on.
vague.
What kind of American are you? I'd love for the film to answer that question. What kind of Americans are there in this world? We don't know. It's an incomplete movie experience because the story is a fill your own narrative, put your own biases up on the screen experience.
Choose your own adventure.
It's not brilliant.
what-
It's lazy and spineless.
No, because the thing is, what kind of American was Jesse Plemons?
We don't know. That's my argument.
Exactly. The point is, Jesse Plemons could have been Jesse Plemons could have been just a random American that was just a rogue person killing every person.
He wasn't. He had a
potentially can.
faction. What was
What
the faction?
faction was it? You don't know that he had a faction. You don't
There
know
was
that
a
he had a
group of
faction.
them.
There were a group of
It
them,
was
and they were all in
three people.
uniform.
It was three people
In
wearing
fatigues.
camo. The five of us could go get camo and guns right now and pretend like we're some faction.
Then all of a sudden we're a faction.
We're just
That's all it
five
takes.
nuts out there doing it. It doesn't mean we're part of
And
any potential group
And are
of
they
the
the
Civil
same?
War.
Are they the same faction as the gas station guys?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I thought that they might have been because they had a similar look and the way
Yeah.
that they were speaking. And Jesse Plemons' character, the way when he asked that one guy where he was from and he was not from America, that kind of veered me into a different way of thinking of what type of person he
Even
was.
Wagner Moore being from Florida, that wasn't from America to him.
Because I don't think he thought he was
Because
American
remember he said
either 'cause he was foreign.
Missouri, Colorado, y'all are from America. He didn't say Missouri, Colorado, Florida, y'all are from America.
He also didn't kill him on sight. What's the tipping point for these characters? How did our system of checks and balances fail? I understand we're just thrown right into the middle of this. I understand we're not supposed to have those answers. I understand that was the formula. They ran the play to perfection, but the play call is garbage. The play call is garbage of I'm going to let the audience not know anything about this world, but the big takeaway is this could happen in your world. You need to watch this because it's a warning to all of us that we are just a few steps away from this. Well, what were those steps that led this world to chaos? You'll never know. We're never going to tell you.
Arguing over
But we
movies.
want Republicans, we want Democrats to both come in and enjoy this action-packed feature. Obviously, John, everyone has their own biases. Everyone comes into an experience with their own biases. This is a film that says, take those biases, throw it up on the screen, and make it whatever fantasy you want to make it that makes you happy enough to buy a ticket and enjoy the carnage along the way. For me, it's a hollow experience because there is no decision that's actually made in this that Ex Machina makes decisions. Annihilation, whether you like it or not, it made decisions. It told you we're going down this path. This film is completely blank of any important decisions.
You're saying it's not believable that everybody in the world's coming to destroy the White House and the president, his hiding place is the Oval Office? You don't think that's a good idea?
It's only believable if you explain it fully.
Yeah, under the desk.
So are you basically saying that you're taking this too serious for a movie? Is that what you're trying to make?
No, I'm just thinking that bugged me that the White House is just, he's got a bunker, he's got all this stuff, and then like I'm going to be in the Oval Office under the desk.
There's a decoy. They sent a decoy out.
Well, no, but like there's tunnels under the. Like,
to be fair, he did have a ton of Secret Servicemen shooting and killed the main character.
The movie takes itself very seriously to then say nothing serious.
That last shot was pretty poignant.
And you don't even have to get into party names or specific politicians or laws or anything. Just values and viewpoints. What does
values and viewpoints are political though?
Well, they also said that
you don't have to get specific.
Canadian currency is more valuable right now, so for some reason, they don't explain that.
John, there is nothing else you would have liked to have seen this movie expand on for your own personal taste. You think it's perfect as is?
It's perfect for what it is. Well, I won't say it's perfect. It's not a perfect movie. I give it a 4.5, not a 5 out of 5. But is it a perfect movie? No. Would I love to have a giant Wikipedia entry? Just like I would love to have a giant Wikipedia entry for a lot of movies that I go see. Sure. Guess what? Dune and Dune 2, I've had to go read a lot of Wikipedia entries to get full context behind a lot of the stuff that's happening in the movie. Doesn't mean I can't enjoy the movie. And it's still my favorite movie of the year, even over Civil War. But for what it is, I have no problem with the movie. Doesn't mean it was absolutely perfect. But I have no problem with the movie the way it is. Cool, I'd love to have more. I'd love to think of Leave the World Behind as a random prequel to it that then you see the bombs drop. It doesn't mean it's actually true. It's perfect. It is near perfect for what it actually is.
What interests me for you is I would like you to fill in the blanks.
No.
I did myself.
I want Tim to feel like, because you're so upset about it, that it didn't. What would have been your narrative? How do we get to see? You're going to insert your politics into this
because
you're going to say, "I bet this happened."
When you buy a ticket, you have an agreement that you're on the ride of the storyteller. There is no story being told here. It's not my job to create the story for a movie that I bought a ticket to. So that's my argument for that process right there.
Did you like the ending?
Stupid.
Did you like the ending of There's No Country for Old Men?
Why are we going into No Country for Old Men? We're talking about Civil War, but
there's an open interpretation. You had to fill in the blank. You got to finish the story for me. I finished this. I paid for the ticket. You tell me what happened.
I think in Ex Machina, there's decisions to be filled in with it. I don't think it tells the full story.
It's the audience's fault that they don't make any decisions.
I didn't say it's anybody's fault.
I enjoyed it.
The
audience isn't allowed to ask questions or seek answers from this movie. That we're all just supposed to sit there and call it brilliant for doing absolutely nothing over its runtime.
But it seems like you're saying it's the director's fault for me enjoying it almost. It's not I didn't say it's the audience's fault for not enjoying what was there.
I didn't say you couldn't enjoy this movie.
We all go see movies and enjoy movies and don't enjoy movies.
I'm glad you enjoyed this movie.
But like, there's questions to be asked in Ex Machina at the end, to spoil it. Hey, she ends up in the real world. What happens to her when she's actually in the real world? Does Donald Gleason actually get out of the place? What was the company he actually even worked for with Oscar Isaac to begin with that he ended up winning this? How did Oscar Isaac become a billionaire?
Listen, you're taking this completely wrong.
How the hell are hobbits born?
This is the problem, guys. This is what y'all are missing from the conversation. The defenders of this film say you're not allowed to ask questions.
No,
that's the problem with the movie.
I literally said y'all can ask all the questions you want. That doesn't make me think less of you because you didn't like it for that. I literally said that, and I'm the one defending the movie here.
Okay.
This is how it starts, guys. I think it started with the podcast.
I know, right?
And
Civil War II.
Factions were formed.
Right here.
Look, I think we'll leave this conversation where it's at. But
open-ended.
For me.
Just like the movie.
I'm not even saying it anymore.
I don't even think it's open-ended. I think it is missing key pieces. You guys
I just think it's don't open ended because they kill the president and it's done.
If you get a package from Amazon and all you get is the box, yeah, technically they delivered the package, but there's nothing inside. That's an issue.
I want to know just order the box. Yeah,
I want to know the story of who wrapped the box, who made the box, who did the packaging, what was their political stance.
How did you get on my side all of a sudden? I don't
Me?
I don't know what's happening. Yeah,
I think he's just trying to irritate Tim.
Well, he's doing a good job. Play the Pittsburgh thing one time for me, please.
Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh. Yeah, we're gonna leave it at
there
that.
There was a thing at the interstate. Go Steelers.
Go Steelers.
Pittsburgh. Your bridge has abandoned you.
By the way, I thought it was a great shot because I'm sitting there reading Go Steelers, and it's like, Go Steelers. Oh, there's two bodies being hung right there.
That's what I was like, that was woof.
Civil War, the film you're not allowed to ask questions or seek answers from.
I literally didn't say that.
That's literally what the film is telling you. is a part of the process here
It
creatively.
doesn't do that at all.
It absolutely does that because it provides
Just
none
because
of
it leaves
them.
open-ended doesn't mean
not
you
gonna
can't
leave
ask
it-
the questions.
not
It's just not going to tell you the
open-ended.
answers.
I felt like it was just incomplete.
And
You can ask the questions all you want to. It may not tell you the answers, but you can ask
But
the
what's,
questions.
what's interesting to me, all the photos they're taking just before is where are those being uploaded to? Like who's viewing
Well,
their
that's what
photos?
I'm saying. Who are they working
Like,
for?
yeah.
We never got that far.
Well, they said Reuters on the.
It said
Jesse-
Reuters and
I meant
and
who are they
Sammy Moore
working
New York
for
Times.
as an audience?
Yeah, and like I'm saying, like who
are those Americans?
Yeah, what website are they up at? Like Reuters or like
It should be America.
Remember, in that one town, there has to be more town like that one that
Yeah.
they went to where things were normal.
with snipers on the
Which
roof.
Even though it
were
wasn't
kind
normal,
of
they had
sni-
snipers on
kind
the
of
roof.
normal. But I mean, they were going around. So there has to still be. I mean, those people looked normal for all.
Kids were
intents and
skipping on the
purposes.
sidewalk.
Here's
They were
another question.
walking their
While
dog.
there's a sniper looking at him.
You have no idea about the media landscape in this film. There's
like
only
I do too. Oh, thank you.
There's
Thank
no-
you, Rocky.
Yeah, I do.
Please
I like
somebody
that.
be on my side.
maybe you guys should have gone on the date together. Look,
No, would you like pretzel bites?
here's what I'll
I would.
say. If I can get the point out. Social
Getting a
media.
second date, Rocky.
You're telling me social media plays no part in any of this story? No social media elements at all?
Elevators don't even
Well,
work.
no, there's no service because you
That's
notice
what-
when Kaylee Spaney's doing the photos on her phone, it says no service on
Yeah.
there. They have no cell phone service
I
through
thought
any
it
of
was
this.
like in what's that movie with Julia Roberts?
Leave the
Like
world
when there's
behind.
probably been a
Leave the world behind,
blackout. Like, is anything working?
No, that-
at this
That's what I'm
point?
saying. Where are those
They,
photos
they
going?
make a point a couple times to show phones and stuff that have no service the entirety of the trip.
So how did how do these people get their images out
Exactly.
to an
I
audience
think it's
if
just
they can't consume
Wi-Fi,
it through
but
They had
anything?
Wi-Fi.
Kirsten Dunst was uploading at the hotel.
thing
and
is,
then
there's-
they had
there's
the
probably no
power
service
outage.
because all the
But if
towers
the
have been blown
world,
up.
But if the world has no way to view it, then where is she uploading it?
I get.
There's the
These are
towers and
plot
stuff
holes
got blown
galore.
up. They show all of this. Like you see cell phone towers blown up and stuff. There's no service on their phone. What I have on this and what I have on this are two totally different things.
Okay, but who's consuming it if there's no service in the world?
This had service still. This did not have service. You're saying social media when I'm in the middle of the woods being like, oh my God, guys, the
you
guy
can do
just got
social
shot.
media on
And
your
like
laptop.
Sean brought up when he said the thing about the
Now you don't
Canadian
have service
currency
in the middle of the woods.
I thought it was because everywhere else in the world was probably okay, which is happening in America. It reminded me of The Last of Us when they went to that, when the two girls went on a date at the mall and they said, "Oh, there's money here." And they're like, "Oh, that's not like worth
Yeah.
anything anymore."
Yeah.
So it must just be that the Canadian currency is probably available in Canada.
I
that you
don't.
can
Yeah, I don't
get
need to
things
know
with.
exactly how did the financial system fall apart here. I know that it did fall apart. Therefore, Canada's more valuable right now than America is.
Well, that's one of the things I think the movie actually did answer because if they're
they answered it
offering
with that
to
one little bit.
pay in Canadian dollars, you can assume the U.S. dollar is worth.
Loonies.
That's all. That's all I needed from it. From stuff like that.
Well, I'd be happy if stuff like that was included for all of the other holes in the movie.
This movie made me appreciate
Made you feel
Monkey Man more because it blended action
Let's go!
and overall political implications. But we're going to leave it at that.
We got the Monkey Man all of a sudden.
It's a better movie than Civil War. I
He
am
was on the
willing.
California side.
Anything else? I'm willing to bet that, John, somehow we survived this Civil War of this discussion. And we take our Canadian dollars and we put it at my
I know
bookie
exactly where you're going with that.
to end up doubling down on the future of this country and all of the sports activities that are offered on there.
Yes, go and play mybookie.ag where, hey, whether you want to bet on the American teams in hockey or the Canadian teams in hockey or the American teams in basketball or the Canadian team in basketball or in baseball, you can go do all of that right now. Mybookie.ag is promo code next round. Go to mybookie.ag, get that first deposit bonus on us. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Mybookie.ag.
For the latest on film, television, pop culture, music, all of that, make sure you subscribe here to The Meltdown. If you've made it this far, you've heard a lot of yelling for sure. Loud noises indeed. And we'll continue this journey with you. 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern, right here on The Meltdown.